Hi, I'm Andy.
And I'm Ryan.
And welcome to another episode of Andy and Ryan Under the Influence. For those of you who've watched our cruise video with Celebrity Edge as first-time cruisers and our top lessons learned, we've decided to step it up this time and go with the sister cruise line to Celebrity, the ultra luxury Silversea, specifically on the gorgeous Silver Nova. And we go under the influence of Visit With Us to share our experience.
So in this video, we share our tips and tricks and we answer the question, is it really worth the extra money? So here goes. Okay, we're back. Let's dive into some of the details.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit of the research nerd in the relationship. So I'm actually going to cover a number of important considerations you need to know before you even get on a Silversea cruise. There's actually 4 key things I'm going to cover in this section. The first is that there are several different types of Silversea ships. The one that we've been on, which is Silver Nova, is actually the latest and the greatest, and they are called the Nova class ships. Starting with the Shadow class, which were built from 2000 to 2001. And then you've got the Muse class, which were built between 2017 to 2021. So really the latest being the Nova class were built in 2023, the Silver Nova that we were on, and 2024, the sister ship Silver Ray. What makes those ships really special is that they are designed asymmetrically. It's a completely different design from the more classic cruise ships. And it certainly brings a much more clean, sophisticated edge in terms of the design. Now, this is an important thing to know because when you read some of the forums, regular cruisers do point out that there is a slight difference in experience if you go with the older, more classic Silversea ships versus the brand new Nova class ships. The price is very, very similar. You're still paying for that ultra luxury experience, but you are going with, I guess, a older build of a ship versus the brand new one. So if that sort of thing does matter to you, that is one thing that you do need to consider.
Okay, so we were on a flash ship, but Andy, what are your tips for getting the most value for money?
Yeah, I think that's really about understanding the fare structure. So one thing to note is that we were on the very last of the old fare structures, which were sort of port-to-port fares, where you get picked up from the port and pretty much most things on the boat are actually included. And when I say most things, that's your onshore expeditions, your food, your drink, your Wi-Fi, your entertainment. Now moving forward, Silversea have actually introduced a brand new structure of fares, which start with your highest level, which is your all-inclusive plus. So that means that it's 100% refundable, being the main draw card, and you have, flexibility should you change your mind and you cancel. You also have credit to use on your onshore expeditions. So I'm not quite sure how that's actually going to happen in real life. If you're actually on one of those fares, please share that in the comments below. I'm really interested to see how that plays out. But so technically, I suppose your onshore expeditions will still be covered. You just get this credit to spend on a specific experience. Then you've got your all-inclusive, which has partial cancellation flexibility, but you don't actually have your onshore expeditions included. And then finally, your most basic fare, which is called your last minute. So it has no flexibility with cancellation and no onshore expeditions included. So I think it's a bit of a misnomer to call it all-inclusive. I would much rather call it an ultra-luxury experience there.
Okay, so what do you mean by ultra luxury?
Yeah, that's a really good point. The interesting thing is, especially for regular cruises, is that ultra luxury doesn't actually mean more things. It's actually quite the opposite. It's less. It's a bit of a odd concept, because when you think you're paying much more, you should be getting many, many more things. But the ultra luxury experience is much more pared back. It's about doing less, but with a really high level of service and high level of personalization, and arguably a higher level of, I guess, quality with your experiences, your food, your beverage. That's, of course, subjective depending on what you think a higher level of quality is. When you look at a Royal Caribbean cruise, which is a good comparison because this is the group which own Royal Caribbean, and then Celebrity being in the middle, and then Silversea being the kind of highest level. And this is mass generalization in terms of fares. Obviously, they go up and down, and there's specials all through the year. You know, you could go on a cruise on a Royal Caribbean, have all your food and beverage and your entertainment included, and that would cost you generally Australian dollars about $2, $3, maybe even $400 per head per day that you're on the cruise. With Celebrity, that tends to sit around that $500 to $600 Australian per day. But when you're talking Silversea, you're easily talking about $900 to $1,000 per person per day. So you are expecting a much more differentiated level of service there. That high level of service and personalization is really what sits behind that quality and what you're paying for. So, for example, we rarely had to wait. There no lines really to anything because it's a much smaller ship with much less number of clients. So you're looking at about 700 people or so being on the Silver Nova, which is the biggest already Silversea class of ships. And it was practically 1-for-1, 1-for-2 staff kind of ratio. So we always had somebody there waiting to welcome us, waiting to seat us. The staff remembered our names, which was surprising because it's 700 over people on the ship. And everywhere we went, we were greeted by our first names. And even down to the detail of remembering your food and allergy requirements, which was something that really surprised me. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. I mentioned that it's a smaller ship, so we're able to kind of squeeze into some of the more interesting ports and smaller docks, which the big ships like your Royal Caribbean or your Queen Elizabeth, etc., won't be able to squeeze in. And it's a much more laid-back atmosphere. It's an elevated design. There was this lovely sort of scented perfume that filled the entire ship. Everything had this sort of quality in terms of sliding doors and beautiful art and flowers everywhere as well.
Yeah, it was lovely. And look, it must be said that it was very much an older clientele. We were among the youngest on the ship. And I think it must also be said that it was a higher class of clientele, if you ask me. Things like less slamming of doors, less, talking loudly in the hallways, playing devices out in public. That wasn't completely eliminated. There's bogans everywhere. But there was a lot fewer instances of that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so now we transition to the experience on the ship itself. It was really exciting. We boarded in Darwin and we were traveling up Southeast Asia with our ultimate port landing in Singapore. And that took us about 8 nights with a couple of stops along the way, being Komodo Island as well as Bali. So lovely tropical weather, which kind of determines, I guess, the outdoor activities there. So, of course, one of the most important experiences when you're on a cruise is your room itself. And we were in the Medallion Suite, which is the next step up from the entry-level room, which is the Veranda Suite. So, it starts with Veranda, then it goes to Medallion, and then it goes to Grand Suite, Junior Suite, etc., etc. You can keep climbing up in terms of the price there. And the price points and the suite that you choose really determine the types of room inclusions there. So with the first entry-level suite being the Veranda, you do not get laundry inclusions. That's one thing to note. And you are only on the basic Wi-Fi package. Because we were the next grade up and all those that follow, you would have premium Wi-Fi included, which is a much faster speed of internet, comparable to being on land, and you have your laundry included every day as well. If you like to see what a entry-level veranda suite experience actually looks like, please refer to Visit With Us, who are the people we went under the influence with, as they do a really comprehensive blow-by-blow video of what that suite actually looks like.
It is important, though, I think, to know that there are laundromats on board, though I think we would say not nearly enough. They seem to be full at all hours, so just bear that in mind. It's also important to know that all rooms are suites. They have tasteful decor, really quite spacious. You can't hear your neighbours through the walls, which is important. And each room has its own dedicated attendant. So thank you, Raphael. And also, interestingly, a butler.
Yes.
So thank you, Rowena.
Yeah, and all the suites have little touches, which is really what differentiates Silversea with that elevated experience. So we actually have a fully stocked minibar, and the butlers will actually remember what choice of drink you prefer. So, you can have your room minibar fridge stocked with champagne every day, or wine or beer, or a variety of mixes if that's what you like. They also give you fruit every day and little nibbles along the way. There's also daily canapes, which include unlimited caviar. So, that's an amazing inclusion if you think about that. You can have that every day if you like. Champagne and caviar sounds pretty amazing. They've given us reusable water bottles to take with us everywhere, and they keep sparkling and still water topped up in your room every day.
Something that I really appreciated was that all the food and beverages, more or less, were included. So there was no drinks package, which can be really annoying when, you have to pull out your card to order a cocktail or something like that. There was none of that.
No.
In each restaurant, beers and wines were included. At the bar, you can ask the staff to make any cocktail you like, all for free, unless, of course, you're asking for top shelf ingredients like a Johnny Walker Blue Label or something like that, and that's all priced at the back of the menu. Shout out to the dream team behind the bar, Joelle, Singh, Sairam. Thank you very much for your service. You were great.
Yeah, I think that's something worth calling out. I was a little bit worried doing my research before getting on the ship that it wasn't actually all-inclusive, because there are restaurants that you need to pay extra for, and then certain, as you said, top shelf kind of wines or alcohol that you would have to pay extra for. So I thought that there was going to be a little bit of a pushy upselling angle, which is quite common on a lot of cruise ships, but I certainly didn't see that at all. I would even go as far as saying. So we're actually going to do a separate deep dive video on the various restaurants and bars which are found on the Silversea Silver Nova. But in this instance, I want to call out the 3 restaurants which are actually not included. The first is La Dame, which is their French restaurant. The second is Kaiseki, which is their Japanese restaurant. But top tip, they actually are open for lunch, which is included, just their dinner is not. And the Salt Chef's Table, which is like a degustation experience with the chef in front demonstrating the different types of dishes that come to you. It's a very sort of small, intimate group. So those, you actually need to pay extra for, but there was actually plenty to choose from the 8 nights that we were on board, such that we were never bored, really.
No, that's right. And with the breakfast, one of our favourite spots was La Terrazza, which was a breakfast buffet. And whereas on other cruise liners, sometimes the buffet is like feeding time at the zoo, On the Silver Nova, it was much more chilled and much more civilized, which we appreciated.
Mm.
In general, we found the wait staff very friendly, very helpful. Only on a couple of occasions in the cafe area did I struggle to gain their attention, but that was pretty rare.
Mm. Okay, so other than your suite and your food and beverage options, the next thing that people would be interested in is the activities on board and the facilities of the ship. So, Ryan, what did you think about that?
Well, I think the gym is a standout. It was well stocked. Although during rush hour, you did struggle to get onto a treadmill. They were all full.
Mm.
And for some reason, the sanitation wipes were like hen's teeth. I don't know what was going on there. But other than that, there are other activities that you can do around the ship.
Yeah, I think the gym is a little bit on the smaller side, so you do have to be patient in terms of waiting for your favorite machine. But there's lots of other things to keep you entertained. There were, the usual plethora of activities such as trivia and music shows and dance classes. But additionally, with this particular ship, there were also lectures, which was really interesting. So they had guest lecturers coming on board, really giving you a bit of a deep dive of the area that you're going to. And they really zeroed in on giving you that connection with your port of call. So, for example, we landed in Bali and they brought on Balinese traditional dances, which was a really lovely touch. They also brought on food to try and give you that connection to your port. So, for example, we left Darwin and they brought on local Darwin oysters, which were amazing. So, yes, I would say that the activities were maybe traditionally geared towards a lower level of energy because of the clientele, so they weren't exceedingly vigorous. But that suited us fine because we were looking for a much more laid-back, relaxing holiday as well.
So, Andy, I think it's important to also differentiate between the different types of shore excursions, what you need to pay for and what you get as part of the package.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, remember, we talked a little bit earlier that we were on the very last port-to-port fares, but in our experience, there would be a series of different types of shore activities that you could choose for. There were those that were included as part of our port-to-port fares, basic shore excursions like a do-it-by-yourself kind of activity, or like we'll take you around to a local Balinese village. Then you had the ones that you had to pay extra for, which were, say, a spa day at a local resort, or like a chauffeured experience where you would go to where you want to go to. So again, I don't know how that's actually going to work now with the new credit system that and the different types of fares there. So if you are experiencing that, please do share that in your comments below. But I would say in general, the quality of the shore excursions were actually very high. They looked after the guests really well, including every time we landed somewhere, there would be a little canopy with a dedicated person sitting there with a Silversea uniform, and they had iced water with cucumber in it and like seats out of the sun. So, you were really in comfort even when you were waiting to be shuttled to and from your destination. Okay. So with every cruise, there are, of course, pros and cons. So, Ryan, what did you think the pros were of the Silversea Silver Nova experience?
Oh, look, certainly the level of service, that's a standout. Everything was spot on, knowing your name and the attentiveness and the little details. I really enjoyed that. Also, as I mentioned before, not having to swipe your card. Everyone's treated the same. Everyone's the same kind of class, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's no different kind of packages to kind of weave through and try to remember.
Yeah.
So that was great too. Not having to wait in line for anything, that was good too. It wasn't as if you were, shipped around like sheep, having to wait for ages on end. Everything was just at your beck and call.
Yeah, I would even go as far to say the much desired lounge chairs by the pool, there was always one available because there was so many on the variety of different decks in different areas. So, that just shows you, I guess, the luxury of space, which is across the Silver Nova ship.
And just the little touches made all the difference. The caviar here, filling up your water bottle there, that's what just makes a rounded experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, it's not necessarily for everybody. If you're going with the expectation that paying more means that you're going to have more activities, more restaurants to choose from, etc., this is not that type of experience. In fact, some people who want that sort of party atmosphere, again, this is not that sort of boat to choose. The other sort of con, which some people have shared on various forums, is, really the cost is a little bit prohibitive. So you could opt to pay for a suite class room on those bigger cruise ships like Royal Caribbean or Celebrity and actually have a very elevated level of experience there. And that would still be cheaper than the entry level veranda class rooms here on the Silver Nova. But quite honestly, it just really depends on what you value.
Yeah, and I think the moral of the story is you get what you pay for.
Mm.
And it's really on the Silver Nova, quality over quantity.
Yes.
So if that's what you're looking for, I think that's what you get.
Yeah, and for us, I mean, for me, I would say personally, I was really looking to wind down and just have a very relaxing holiday. I wanted someone to take care of my needs. So for that, I would highly recommend trying out the Silversea Ultra Luxury experience. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more of these, make sure to like and subscribe.